Hello friends, on a night recently, there was a massive fire in the United States, in the state of Pennsylvania. The incident happened in the city of Reading, where a huge abandoned factory burst into flames. The scale of the fire was so impressive that it posed a danger to the surrounding structures. Several teams of rescuers immediately arrived at the scene. The peculiarity of the situation was that the flames actively spread to the upper floors of the building. Local media report that the factory was completely destroyed by fire, but so far there is no information about casualties. The causes of the fire will be determined at a later date. Storm Ciarán, which earlier hit the UK, has reached France. This natural disaster is accompanied by hurricane-force winds reaching speeds of up to 120 kilometers per hour and heavy rains. As a result, more than 1 million people have been left without electricity, and streets in many regions are flooded, trees have fallen, and there are destroyed homes. Authorities have deployed about 3,000 rescue workers to help local residents. According to local media reports, 4 people have died and 16 others have been injured. Many highways are temporarily closed and airport operations have been completely halted in some French provinces. Some roads are blocked, train traffic is disrupted, and ferry services have been halted. Weather conditions are not yet showing signs of improvement, and despite a certain calm, it is too early to assess the stabilization of the situation. According to meteorologists' forecasts, Storm Ciarán will continue to remain in France until the middle of next week. Italy was also affected by Storm Ciarán, which preceded the hurricane with heavy rainfall and destructive winds. Scientists believe that storms have become more frequent due to climate change, and there is speculation that such storms may become the norm in the future, according to experts. At the moment, a storm warning has been declared in France and the UK, and residents are being asked to stay away from bodies of water, postpone long-distance travel, and keep a close eye on emergency services messages. According to some meteorologists, Ciarán could turn out to be one of the most powerful storms in the history of weather observations. In Italy, at least 2 people have died as a result of unfavorable weather conditions. The epicenter of the disaster was the region of Tuscany. Earlier in this region, as well as in Veneto, declared the highest, red level of weather danger. In Tuscany, after heavy rains, some parts of the region were flooded, which led to the introduction of the emergency regime. Underwater were not only residential houses, but also administrative buildings and stores. The governor of Tuscany said that rescuers are using inflatable boats to reach people and assist them in choosing from water traps. The situation is also difficult in and around the town of Prato. Rivers have overflowed their banks in several areas, and authorities have announced the closure of dozens of towns. Saudi Arabia is also facing bad weather. The storm brought rain and hail to the country. Most highways were flooded, and drivers caught in the storm were forced to abandon their cars and evacuate or wait hours for help. Hail caused damage to many homes and cars, and gale-force winds felled trees. Locals note that this kind of bad weather is rare for the region, so local authorities were not prepared for such a development. At present, emergency services are actively working to search for victims, pump out water, and restore normal life in the cities. Nevertheless, local residents urged to monitor the situation and follow the instructions of rescuers. Let's take a few minutes away from the catastrophic events and discuss the political situation in the world's most tense region, the Middle East. In the Gaza Strip, 4 more refugee shelters have been damaged in the last 24 hours, converted into schools for temporary accommodation. At least 20 people were killed. This information was provided by the UN Relief and Works Agency for Palestine refugees in the Near East. The total number of Palestinians placed in shelters of this organization is about 700,000 people. It is not excluded that their number will increase, as Tel Aviv intends to continue the military operation in the enclave until the complete destruction of representatives of the radical movement Hamas. Meanwhile, CNN reports that the U.S. has warned Israel that the suffering of the population of Gaza is weakening support for the operation. According to media reports, U.S. President Joe Biden did not approve of the recent strikes on the Jabalia refugee camp, prompting increasing criticism of Israel's actions. This criticism comes not only from the country's enemies, but also from its closest allies. In response, Israel cut ties with Gaza, and Prime Minister Netanyahu's office said that all Palestinians from the enclave are now banned from working in the Jewish state. Those workers who were already in Israel when hostilities began will be sent back to the Gaza Strip. It is also worth noting that Tel Aviv is actively acquiring weapons to fight on several fronts. According to the agency, $1.5 billion has already been spent on weapons purchases, including bombs, missiles, drones, and other weapons. It is important to note that the lower house of the U.S. Congress approved an aid bill for Israel, providing more than $14 billion. However, this bill does not include the allocation of funds to support Kyiv. The document has to be considered in the Senate of Congress. The media reports that President Biden is ready to veto the bill if it is agreed in its current form. In conclusion, it is worth noting that in Egypt the idea of relocating almost 2.5 million residents of Gaza to Sinai has been proposed. This unusual scenario has been proposed as part of an international humanitarian plan. Egyptian Foreign Minister Sami Shoukry said that perhaps the U.S. could consider providing its territory on the southern border for this purpose, as has been suggested for the Sinai Peninsula. Israel has also previously proposed relocating Gaza Strip residents to tent camps in northern Sinai, with the possibility of building permanent cities. As a reminder, it is important to express your opinions and comments while respecting each other. The Panama Canal is again facing a decline in the number of ships able to pass through, and the historical drought and critically low water levels are to blame. The Panama Canal Authority attributes this situation to the fact that this October's rainfall was 41% less than usual. As a result, now only 18 ships can pass through the canal per day, and the Panama authorities have set restrictions on the weight of ships. Specialists attribute this event to climate change and the impact of the El Niño oceanic phenomenon. Usually the rainy season lasts from late April through November, but this year there was not enough rainfall to maintain water levels in the canal and allow ships to pass throughout Central America. New Zealand has declared war on rats in an effort to protect native birds from these rodents. The media reports that rats kill about 26 million birds a year, which is an incredible figure. It is important to note that the number of unwanted rodents exceeds New Zealand's population of about 5 million people by a significant amount. Posters have now been put up all over the country urging locals to be vigilant. Last year, Moon Base School in southern New Zealand held a rat trapping program among its students, and 40 students were able to catch more than 600 rats over the course of 100 days. New Zealand has set an ambitious goal to be completely rat-free by 2050. If you dream of traveling to another planet, you might want to visit Lake Gawan in China. Something amazing happens here. The reservoir dries up, creating a spectacular landscape that some tourists have already called alien. The curved rocks, ravines, and cracked surface give the area an incredible look. Amazingly beautiful sand craters remind the surface of Enceladus, a satellite of Saturn. Interestingly, the lake dries up every year, and this phenomenon attracts hundreds of tourists and locals. They enjoy walking along the exposed sandy bottom. There are even grasses growing at the bottom of the lake that local farmers use to feed their livestock. Friends, many of you have probably experienced natural disasters, floods and storms. The question arises, do we empathize with those in distress, or is it indifference? Maybe our empathy is now focused on ordinary Palestinian civilians who find themselves in a desperate situation with nowhere to go for rescue. As for Israel's proposal to move all Palestinians to Sinai, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. It is a complex and controversial issue, and there may be different opinions on it. It is also worth thinking about the U.S. aid package and the arms race in which various parties are involved. There are many people making money in this situation, and it raises serious questions. Let's share our views in the comments, helping each other understand the diverse viewpoints. I wish everyone peace and prosperity to you and your families, and I urge you to cherish our common home, our planet, by keeping humanity in yourselves.